From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 201 of From the Middle. A special request. If you haven't yet listened to episode 200, go back. We had a ton of fun. We celebrated, and we hope that you'll share that episode with your friends and loved ones. As far as this episode, welcome to 201. We're three middle-class guys living in the middle of America, and the middle chapters of our lives are the point of view that's somewhere in the middle. We're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview-style podcast, and we have tons of fun having great conversation and laughing along with one another. In this one, imagine for a second that you're a celebrity, maybe a stand-up comic, maybe you're a pro athlete, maybe you're a musician, and you get to make some special requests of the venue. What would be on your rider? We also like to throw out our congratulations to a Welsh football club, a German visiting America, and have tons of time to talk about what we're streaming. Enjoy the episode. Peace.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
Carl, it's so nice to see you. Hi, Dylan.
Hey, I'm here.
Somebody forgot we were recording tonight.
What?
100%. I forgot. Yep.
200 episodes, barely an issue. We get past 200, and he's like, "I'm coasting from here on out."
Yeah, Dylan is usually so careful and meticulous about making sure that we're all on the same page as far as when we're doing what. And
after 200, the talent does what the talent wants. And if I remember an episode, I'll show up. And if I'm just like lounging, no shirt on, on my leather bidet and with the star on my door, like,
did you say leather bidet?
I don't know. What did I say? Bidet?
I heard leather bidet.
Sure did.
Sure. That's the really fancy ones you can only get in Europe, or the leather ones. And I'm just there with like my shirt half unbuttoned, just like, I'm not ready yet.
I imagine that you start demanding a certain amount of money per episode. You come up with a writer of the things that you require to be waiting for you in your green room pre-production.
Green room. That's what I was trying to think of. I'm just in my green room with my star on my door, just, half off the couch, half on. I'm not ready. Tell them to come back. And then I take a big swig of warm milk.
That's a fun question. If you guys were like performing artists, let's say stand-up comedians or musicians, would you have anything on your writer? Would you have like a certain thing that you demanded be in your green room before your shows?
That is a fabulous question that I feel like everybody has contemplated at some point. I don't think that I have.
So while you guys think, there's this notorious story about Van Halen and how they requested a whole bunch of things, and one of them was a very specific request about brown M&Ms being backstage. And people actually use that as the you don't want to be like those guys who requested everything, even brown M&Ms.
Like that's the trope.
But there's an interesting story behind Van Halen's brown M&Ms that I just heard for the first time on a podcast, and I listen to so many now that I forget which it was. But because their shows were so elaborate and the stages and the pyrotechnics and all this stuff was so elaborate, they required so much to be in their trailers and so much that their crew had to manage. The brown M&Ms were really far down that list. And so it was actually just a litmus test for them to be able to discern if the hosting place had even read through it. And if the brown M&Ms were on the table, they were like, wow, they probably dotted every I and crossed every T because the brown M&Ms are there. And if the brown M&Ms were not there, then they got concerned and felt like they should probably start double checking everything. So they were intentionally used as like a thing to try to assess how on top of it the facility was. Which when you hear that, and they really didn't, I don't even think they really cared about brown M&Ms. It was about, did you do your due diligence?
So it's not about whether they respect my celebrity status.
Yeah.
I feel like the most obvious one now would just be like, hey, if the internet, think about some of these stages, you're like squirreled away in this concrete building behind the stage. Like, if I can't use my phone in that room, you better have a hotspot set up for me to where like I have access to the internet and I'm not in some dungeon behind a stage with no access to internet. So it's like, if your internet's bad, I need a hotspot. And then do you feel like sometimes the drinks and snacks things used to feel silly to me until I think about how much people are like on and off of planes traveling and realizing like you might not have time to even stop somewhere to just get a food or drink that doesn't upset your stomach or make you feel sick, or it's like a normal food, like a food that you know, because that's what it becomes as an adult, right? That's what you realize. That's what you're looking for. When you're a kid, you eat anything, you know, consequences be damned. As an adult, you're like, what won't upset my stomach? What won't give me acid reflux? So it's like,
for most people, what they wouldn't want in that case would be Taco Bell. For the three of us, the answer is actually Taco Bell.
Yeah,
you better have some Taco Bell.
The bean burrito flatulence will help me perform better on stage.
Trust me, this is what my system is used to.
I'm fact checking myself real time, and I think it just got even more interesting. Van Halen requested M&Ms with all the brown ones removed.
Oh, that's easier to manage.
So easier to manage, but the same principle, right? So if they hadn't removed the browns, M&Ms, then something was wrong. I hear Russ is probably like, no, it was they had to remove the brown M&Ms.
Yeah. That's why. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad you're fact checking yourself, though. I'm glad we're back there.
We had a couple comedians when I was on the student programming board at Columbus College of Art and Design, and I was in charge of hosting. We've told the story about Dimitri Martin on this podcast. Dimitri Martin, and we had Tom Cotter and a few other comics, and I was actually in charge of like getting all the stuff for their writers. And there was never anything crazy. It was usually a specific pop and snack. Like a veggie tray is a common one. They can have something a little lighter, a little fresher before they go on stage. And it was a college campus, so they couldn't ask for crazy stuff. But
I feel like there's definitely an interesting interview there with the type of requests to the type of people. Like, you know, I want a small bucket of baked beans and, you know, 2 extra large Dad's root beers right before they go on stage to perform. Like, who do you think that would be, and how did that night go? After a tub of baked beans and extra Dad's root beer, like, just there's got to be certain people that have the weirdest requests. I'd love to hear those stories from, you know, like the comedy club, or especially like Jimmy Fallon and some of the late night shows that they constantly have high profile guests on.
Here's a couple interesting ones. I'm reading through a list. Bestlifeonline.com. So who knows if it's true. Let's see. Marilyn Manson requested gummy bears, Doritos, 2% milk, Manwich, and microwave popcorn. David Hasselhoff requested a life-size cardboard cutout of himself.
Yes, he would.
Mariah Carey, who I think is kind of known for being a little particular, 16-ounce bottles of Evian water only, unless the water is for tea, in which case the water must be Poland Spring, and Cristal champagne with bendy straws to drink it with.
Evian wasn't that bad until it was the separate kind of water for tea. If you just have a preferred drink, I don't think that's like saying, hey, I'd like a couple of this kind of juice, a certain juice, or kombucha or something because it's my favorite type of that thing. That
Mhm.
wasn't that weird. It was the Poland Springs for green tea. Continue.
Right.
Let's see. The Foo Fighters requested provisions such as visual enhancement section and a ban on wallet chains and tridents. What?
Okay.
I feel like
That sounds like a safety thing.
I feel like we're in the depths of the internet now. Barbara Streisand requested that the space be swept by police dogs before her arrival, and that members of the staff or crew dress nicely and do not wear T-shirts in her presence. Ooh, Larry the Cable Guy. This has got to be interesting. 50. This is in quotes. 50 Hooters style wings and 4 cans of berry flavored chewing tobacco. Hooters style. That's
not
Hooters
shocked,
style
I
wings.
guess. Yeah.
Dustin Diamond, for all those live performances he's doing, his writer explicitly bans promoters from using materials that refer to him as Screech, with the added threat of $100 fine for every offending piece of promotional material, including ads, flyers, and marquees. He also needs 2 pints of chocolate milk and somebody to greet him at the airport with a sign that says Diamond in all caps.
All right.
Okay, so these are kind of fun.
Dylan, have you thought about your list?
Yeah, I think this quickly turns into just like, what are the things that I know I can have at home that won't make me feel sick or upset. Like I can't do a bowl full of candy, right? Because then I'm going to get on stage like, hunched over. It'd probably be like I'd like, we've talked about the Zoa energy drinks from The Rock. Couple of those cold, in the fridge, ready to go. And then I probably would do a really boring snack like plain Ritz crackers or something that I know that I can just eat a few or eat a lot as much as I need, but it's not going to mess with my stomach or it's not going to make me feel bad. It would be boring. Energy drink and a basic snack.
Okay. I would say for me, when it comes to these kinds of things, they're always colored by recency bias. And so I'm going to refer to something that I tried today for the first time, which I thought was amazing. Bias. Yeah. Which is Sonic right now has Red Bull slushes. And I'm one of those weirdos who likes Red Bull, likes the taste of Red Bull. It tastes like Smarties, and I'm a fan of that. There's Corey. Yeah. And so I don't drink it with any kind of real regularity. For me, it's more like I was too lazy to make coffee this morning, and now I have a headache, and it's 3 p.m, and I'm dragging kind of situation. Even then, I nurse it. So I've literally been drinking on this Sonic Red Bull slushy like all day today, popping it in the fridge, taking it out from time to time. And it is delightful. Like a Smarties flavored slushy is a wonderful thing. So I appreciate that. And it sounds kind of celebrity weird, like Red Bull slushes.
I'm gonna force more of an answer. And I can even go back and answer. If you had to have a food item, but especially if you had to have an entree of some kind, like an actual meal, I'm going to make myself answer. I'm not going to let myself just say Ritz. You have to have an actual meal of some kind that you've requested.
I'm going to ask for a thin crust Columbus style pizza, but pie cut, not square cut, the way that they always cut them here.
Okay. Plain cheese, you said?
No. I'll go for that style of pizza. I'll go sausage.
Okay. All right. You're up, Corey.
I'm like, do I have to sing for this show? If I'm singing, then I don't want any dairy.
Don't worry about what the show is for.
Okay. Sugar-free Red Bull. I'm with Kendall on that one. Some water that I won't drink, but I want some there as an option. Don't care.
Fancy bottle.
Don't care what brand it is. Just,
Yes, you do. Stop.
Let's say Liquid Death.
Yes, there it is.
Sugar-free Red Bull, Liquid Death, Swiss rolls for after the show, and a little knife to cut them down lengthwise with, so I feel like I'm eating more of them.
Yeah.
and if I have to
have somebody do that for you.
No, I'm not a diva. And then if I have to have a meal, I want pasta. But are they cooking this on the? There's a burger's fine. I don't need any fries.
Okay.
I just imagined you say you don't care what kind of water, and I just imagined it being Ice Mountain and you going, ugh. Like, and then that would have been, you would have pretended like that was the reason you weren't going to drink it, which you never were. But you would have pretended like it being Ice Mountain would have been the reason why. You're like, because you'd probably say, well, if they had Liquid Death, I would have drank it. I gotta say food now. I think the pizza was kind of a good call, but it's got to be a known quantity pizza, because if you get something really greasy you've never had before, if you get something really, you don't want to be surprised. I actually think Taco Bell is probably the least chaotic to me. And so I think I could say probably go a little safer than bean burritos and just say, just give me like a half dozen soft tacos with sour cream and I'm good. Just I know I can eat them. I know I can handle them and be fine and go do my thing. So some soft tacos with sour cream is the safe play.
Yeah, you don't want any foods that are too volatile.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's actually a question I've been wanting to ask for a really long time. So I'm glad we covered that.
Beautiful. I love that.
Good.
It's good to see you guys. It was really fun celebrating 200 episodes with you last week. We got some very kind words before and after that recording from other people in Odd Pods Media and listeners and friends. And so that was really encouraging, fun. If you get a chance, go back. We recapped 100 episodes in different ways, but quick, punchy ways. We went down the list of all 99 episodes and then did a really thoughtful and I thought it was sweet little 5-minute recap, which we'll be dropping later. What's been going on since then? How you guys doing? What's new in your worlds? Fill me in.
I just a quick nod back to the episode. I thought it was a great time, a ton of fun. I think that's a really good one. If you listen and you want to share an episode to give people a sense of who we are and what we talk about, I think that's a great one. I hope that people go back to 200 and find the little box with the arrow pointing out the little share icon. And I hope you text that out to people and say, hey, I think you like this podcast. These guys are pretty funny. And I had a ton of fun. So that was a great one. Yeah, Corey wants to I almost made a joke there. Corey wants to double click that.
Well, for two reasons, right? Because I think 200 in itself was actually a pretty decent episode. We didn't do a lot of other planning or scripting other than you take these 33, I'll take these 33. But then the double-edged sword of that is if they hear any interesting recaps that sound interesting to them, they will have had a rundown of the previous 99 episodes and can go back and listen. So yes, for two reasons, I think it's a good one to throw.
Very good. Thanks for fingering that thought a little bit. So I thought double clicking that thought. Anyways,
together, Dylan.
What's been going on? I have to quick shout out. I feel like I just did this a couple episodes for an SNL shout out. We talked about a lot about the TV series Welcome to Wrexham. Rob McElhenny, Ryan Reynolds. They bought a Welsh soccer team in the worst division of soccer in England. And after 2 seasons, they just got promoted to League 2 English soccer. They got their promotion up to the next level. Congratulations. I don't want to say Cinderella story. They pumped millions of dollars into an organization to help them win. That's not exactly a Cinderella story, But that's kind of the state of modern sports, right? Like nobody's taking over and going, hey, I'm not throwing an extra penny into this because I think you all already have what it takes. That's how sports works now. So somebody buys a team, you're expecting them to dump cash in to try to like fix the problems and make the team better. And they actually did it though. And I think
I was gonna say, that's
they did it.
That's not to say anything like bad about it, or that's not to say that what they did isn't totally impressive.
Yeah.
Because like Dylan said, that's the way it works in sports. Every time a sport gets rebought or they do an overhaul and bring in a new front office, which happens every off season for some teams and in some sports, and most of the time it still flops.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you see what those two guys were able to do with Wrexham.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and we're also not talking about, as we've all learned from watching the show, not that most of us knew this ahead of time, we're also not talking about a brand new team that was just formed in the last 50 years. This is a really old team. It was a storied team who was on about a 15-year bad run, and they needed some investment, and they got it, and they're winning, and that's awesome. So congratulations to Wrexham Football Club on your promotion. And it was very cool. I've been watching lots of YouTube clips of interviews from the team and from the owners. And I love the photo of Rob and Ryan holding up the trophy. And they both have very clearly spilled drinks on their laps, but it looks like they've peed their pants. Enthusiasm. Great photos. I'm sure they'll have people, photoshopping those in no time, but very cool.
Yeah, Sherry texted me on Saturday because she knows I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham because of your recommendation, Dylan. And so I told her a little bit about what Rob and Ryan were doing and what the premise of the show is. So because she's up on the sports news, she's like, hey, you might want to Google Wrexham/Field Rush and the shot of Rob and Ryan like getting emotional up in their private box or whatever. That was very cool to see for sure. And speaking of being excited about European people and things, we mentioned this in episode 200, but my friend and former colleague from Cologne, Germany, stopped in last weekend. So just a super quick recap. We were going to try to figure out a way. I tried to wrangle him into coming onto the show somehow. It didn't work out this time. It was a wonderful visit. We had a great time. I thought the best gift that we can give this friend of ours is to just let him see what our life is really like, as opposed to taking all my time away from the family and showing him around Columbus and taking him to all these restaurants. Like, he can come to my daughter's musical and he can come to my son's soccer game, and we did some of of both, but right. I thought that would be a fun thing. And he was very, that's actually what he said he wanted to. I don't know if he was just being nice, but that's what he said would bring him the most joy. So that was funny. But one of the things he and I talked about, and he and I have traveled a lot together. In fact, the last time Stefan and I were together was in Sydney, Australia, when Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson announced that they had COVID. And that was the first weekend, I think, that Trump was really starting to take COVID seriously. And they were starting to talk about shutting down international borders. And Stefan and I are doing a work gig in Sydney. And so that's the last time we were on a work trip together. So we were talking about that. Anyway, so I said, what's interesting, Stefan, in all of our travels, and I don't know if this is true for you guys, but when you hear the name of a place, China, India, Australia, you think of the caricature of that place. You think of the photo that you would show on a grade school wall poster of that place. And then you get to that place oftentimes and realize, oh, so it's like they have a downtown and skyscrapers and they have a highway. And it's, once you get there, it feels pretty much like what you're used to in a lot of ways. And so I said, while that's true, you do still notice things, words, turns of phrase, certain foods, certain condiments. You do still notice things when you're in that place that do stick out a little more than those stereotypes, right? So I said, I'm really interested to hear what, if anything, after the end of being here in Columbus, Ohio, from Germany for 3 days, sticks out to you as interesting or odd or unique. And he said, okay, deal. So at the end of the 4 days, 3 nights, I said, okay, so what was it? What was the most like interesting thing for you? And he said, probably the very first night. And so what he said on the first night was, I will have just come from Germany. I'll probably be jet lagged. I'll just get a hotel that first night. You can just come pick me up in the morning. So he stayed at like an airport hotel. He's like, from my airport hotel, if I wanted to go to a convenience store for a water or a snack, there was no sidewalks. I had to go from my hotel across like what was like a boulevard for us. He's like, I was walking through multiple ditches. I walked through a little woods. He's like, it's like there was no thought that the people at this hotel might want to actually walk to a convenience store. And I was like, interesting. That's a really good point. If you're not in our major metropolitan areas, we don't give a lot of thought to people walking because we drive everywhere. Mm-hmm. And he's not used to that, being from Cologne, a city that is designed around people bicycling and walking. And of all the things he experienced while he was here, he's like, average size American cities disregard for the fact that people might want to walk from point A to point B was very interesting to him. And I thought you guys would think that was interesting.
I love that because there's the only real, I don't want to say that. That sounds too harsh. What feels like the most prominent sense of community that we have in a large city is typically based around sports, right? So going to the event, sharing the event together, everyone going home. I don't think we have as much of that sense of community when it comes to things like getting from A to B, transportation, neighborhood to neighborhood, how things flow through cities, that kind of design and architecture. When a hotel wants to be a hotel, they buy the land, they build exactly what they need, and they're done. That's because why would they think to do any more?
Right.
Because my business only needs this much sidewalk, so it's going to end at the exact end of my boundary. I'm not going to offer to build more sidewalk to get to the next thing to get it approved. Some of that is regulatory, but that's very much like, as soon as he started describing it, I'm like, yes, that's exactly how we would do. I said, we also would very much expect you, unlike a lot of places in Europe, we would definitely expect you to have a vehicle or Uber or whatever. You don't really not seriously get around a city like Columbus on foot or with public transportation. I mean,
yeah.
And so especially here, it's like you would be expected to pretty much just grab an Uber to get to the convenience store and get back, or DoorDash it, right? So we talked about how that was like a high class consideration, and now the middle class knows, I can have cereal, milk, and Red Bulls at my hotel room in 15 minutes, and that's just a thing I can do now. So, yeah, spot on observation. Love it, Stefan.
Yeah. I mean, there are some communities that do a better job at that than others,
for sure.
But yeah, it's not a universal truth at all. Far from it in this country that we expect people to walk everywhere. That's a good point. There's a YouTube channel, I forget the name of it, of a guy who goes from, like, part of what he does, he goes from city to city and he sort of grades cities and areas of town based on how well it's laid out for pedestrian use. And some of his common things that he hates to see is like giant parking lots in front of stores. Like, don't make the pedestrians walk like an extra quarter mile to get to the front door. So now obviously he has a bias there, but it does at the very least make you realize that, that is certainly something that separates us from a lot of other places.
For sure. So that was one thing that Stefan pointed out. And then he surprised us at the end of his visit. So his wife makes these beautiful handmade bags using the leather from used gymnastics equipment and felt. So it's a way to reuse like the leather from like the big pommel horses and balance beams and things like that. So she reuses that and hand makes all this leather. We'll include the link to where it's really cool stuff. So he surprised Sherry and the kids each with their own little small bags. And then he brought all of us candies, different types of candies. Stuff his filter for choosing which candies to bring was what's the hardest stuff for them to get in the US. And so he brought a lot of different flavors of Haribo, which I had no idea started in Germany. It's a syllabic abbreviation formed from Hans Briegelbahn. So Haribo is in Germany. And he brought a few different ones. I'm going to share a photo. If you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. So he brought a few different kinds. The first one were these sour gummies that had like cream filling on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The flavors of the sour gummies was like no flavor. Truly, it was like no flavor. It felt less artificial and more like authentic in some way, like more genuine fruit. Then he brought these pasta ones. The picture got small. These
sour pasta.
I just want to jump in and also let everyone know that Corey is allowed to do that accent because we're part German. So
yeah, for sure. So it's like they're like flat penne. There's not a hole in the middle. They're just totally flat. So I don't know what kind of pasta that would be.
Butterflied penne.
Yeah, butterflied penne. So then he had these soda ones, which I still have some of the soda ones left. You guys can't try the first two I just mentioned because they're gone.
There you go.
And then a bunch of different chocolates, mango type chocolate.
Chocolate Haribo.
No, not chocolate Haribo.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Chocolates.
Sorry. Okay.
So like Kinder chocolates, and then these other chocolates that are like mango flavored, which I have all the chocolates and some of the soda sour Haribo, and then there was another kind of Haribo that I'll bring in next time we record in person. But so nice, really appreciated it. It was so much fun visiting. The places I did decide to show him around were the Dog House, the Dog Tap House Brewery, Brewdog and Hotel, that big nice area down there.
Oh yeah.
In Canal. Also took them to one of my favorite breakfast brunch places, Original Pancake House at Polaris, of the famous Portland.
Oh.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon, Walker Brothers in Chicago pancake houses, and drove him through Easton. Of course, he had to see Easton. There was a lot of stories that I had about Easton, so that was fun. But it was just a great time. Got to introduce him to some family and friends, and we really enjoyed it. And then Dylan reminded me when we were at Brewdog, dude, there was a spring game on earlier today. You could have taken him to Ohio Stadium to see a spring game. And next time.
Yeah. Especially how big the stadium is, because obviously soccer, internationally football, they can fill stadiums, but they don't have stadiums the size of some of our college football stadiums. And so I said, if you guys are going to go down to campus, sometimes you might find a door open, go stand in the middle of 106,000 seat theater or, amphitheater, stadium, whatever. That's, bigger than most things in the world. So very cool experience. I'm glad you got to do that. Also, I want somebody to educate us sometime on the chocolate thing, because anytime I see discussion around how much better international chocolate is than like Hershey's, and how Hershey's tastes like vomit to Europeans, I'm so intrigued by it that I full disclosure, I love Hershey's, but I also know nothing about fine chocolate. So I'm totally fine with the fact that like I might have base level Neanderthal taste when it comes to chocolate. and people could like educate me, like, please send some to us so we know what good chocolate is.
There you go.
And then I would love to try it. So that's a fascinating discussion to me anytime I see it happen, about how like, well, Kinder's this way in England and it's trash in America, and Hershey's tastes like vomit to Europeans, and if you go to France you're going to have this. I would love to do a sampling of like, not even like the crazy expensive chocolates, but like what do normal people buy as a good chocolate, like in Belgium or France or England or whatever. That's fascinating to me.
I've done a little bit of that. I too like Hershey's. One of my favorite, if I had to make a list of top 5 favorite candy bars, like a regular Hershey's milk chocolate bar is on my list.
Goes a long way.
I've had, again, from our local little candy shop that has all kinds of awesome imported things. Cadbury is a very popular chocolate, and it's, yes, they make the cream eggs, but they also in England make and sell what we have as Hershey bars, they have as Cadbury bars. And for me, it was so similar. They're fine. They're good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've heard the exact same thing that you had, that Hershey's is frowned upon in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
But maybe my palate just isn't that privy.
Yeah. And I like I've had Lindt and Godiva, and those are supposed to be some decent brands, right? So like, I don't know, but like, I'm all for it. I'll try it. If somebody's want to lay out a chocolate smorgasbord of delicacies, Kendall and I, for sure. And
or tell us what to try to find, maybe, and I'll put it together for us.
Heck yeah! I mean, Jungle Jim's has got to have a bunch of that stuff, right?
I'm pretty sure between Jungle Jim's and my local place that if somebody were to curate a list, here's what you need to try. And I don't think we're necessarily looking for what's the fancy schmanciest, most expensive chocolates in the world. Sure. I want to find like, what are people in Germany used to? What are people in England used to?
Right.
And I want to put that list together, and then I'll even put the burden on myself to try to find those things, and then put together a thing. This has been a long time coming.
I like this. We're going to get a curated list, and there will be a smorgasbord of delicacies after we hear from some friends in Odd Pods Media.
I'm Richie, a.k.a. Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, a.k.a. Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
And we're back.
Yeah, there we are.
Hey, yeah. I missed you there for a second.
Yeah. What's funny is my camera, for some reason, keeps trying to do this like auto light thing. It keeps fluttering, and I've tried to fix it numerous ways, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know what it wants from me. That's why I put on a hat partway through that first half, because I thought it was the light shining off of my forehead was confusing the lens.
Yeah.
And but no, that didn't fix it. So
it's like you were driving through the middle of the American West in the middle of the night and stopped at like a log cabin rest stop with a front porch light that's flickering and it's closed, and you're just standing on the porch, like trying to figure out what you're going to do next because you need gas.
What if I
and it's kind of what it feels like.
When you nodded in agreement, I wondered if it was like the cast shadow from the bill of your hat and it was causing it to adjust as you were nodding. No, maybe you're just having a party over there. It's fun.
Yeah.
Fun that you're not enjoying if you're not watching it on YouTube. And most of our listeners are podcast listeners. So what other stuff do we have to talk about?
Well, you actually said something earlier that's a good transition to something I just watched. You were talking about being in Australia right when COVID broke out and potentially trying to not get stuck there. That is the exact premise of a documentary on Netflix called The Longest Third Date, where it is the whole documentary is this couple from New York who meet on an app. They go out 2 times. And then as a spontaneous, crazy gesture, the guy proposes that they take a flight to like Puerto Rico for their third date. And then they literally get stuck there for months.
Oh, wow.
Because of the whole COVID thing. And it talks about, apparently this was huge news during COVID and I missed it. This story of this couple in New York. And so it reminded me of that. That was one of the many things that I've been watching since we didn't talk about what we've been watching because of the 200th episode. That was a really like funny, just shake your head, hand on your forehead, shake your head kind of thing you're watching unfold going, oh my gosh. I'm sure there's many stories like that of people getting stuck places. But if you're into that kind of story, check that out. The Longest Third Date on Netflix.
Sounds very good. We have a lot of streaming stuff to talk about.
So much
episode.
streaming.
I've been watching a lot on long flights to Seattle and back. Dylan, you have something on your list that I also have on mine. So let's knock that one out because I saw a clip. I believe it was on Facebook or Netflix. You know how they just autoplay stuff now when you hover over it? And I saw enough to think this is worth watching as a fan of stand-up. So I downloaded this special. The comedian is, I'm not in their demographic. Let's put it that way. So I was like, I'll check it out. I found myself crying, laughing at one point on the flight. And I started drafting a message to a couple people. One is Dylan and I's mother. And I was like, she's going to love this. And she's going to want to tell her friends about it and probably have a watch party, knowing her, because our mother is in this person's demographic. And then I have older than Sherry and I neighbors. And the wives of those households, I recommended it to them as well. And one has already replied and said, I was crying, laughing, and I'm now forwarding this on to all my friends. So I'm interested to hear, Dylan, what you thought of Leanne Morgan, I'm Every Woman on Netflix, because I loved her and I'm already conniving ways to get her on the podcast.
So same experience. Autoplay starts up. I hear a joke or two. My gut reaction, I have no problem saying, was the phrase "our mom" popped into my head. So it's funny you say that because that phrase popped up and I went, do I think this sounds like if our mom was trying stand up? Do I just know that she's the key demographic for like this kind of stand up? Is it that I think, because when we were on vacation earlier this year, we watched the new Nate Bargatze special with some family who is older, typically does not watch stand up, and they all enjoyed it. And so I was like, or maybe I think this is something I should send to mom, but I need to watch it first because I would need to know if it was something that's really funny to her, if that's just the clip. So it's really funny that you said that. It's sort of like typically the Gaither. We are not typically the target audience of the Gaithers, but here we are talking about the Gaithers across however many episodes on this podcast. And so I turned on Leanne Morgan, I'm Every Woman, with my wife, who I thought would probably be a good part of her audience. And we both laughed a ton. She is very funny. And I can easily see her being the exact kind of comedian that like every Facebook social group, like community group, neighborhood group, parents sitting around sports fields, stadiums, talking about what they did over the weekend. Her name is going to be coming up for a while with this special because it's super relatable. It's like, it's really funny, blue collar, very relatable humor that it's anybody's, it could be anybody's really funny mom or funny aunt that's just getting up and it's just legitimately having a good time on stage. And so I thought it was great. I'm so glad that you watched it. It was very good stand-up. Leanne Morgan, I'm Every Woman. I'll say it again in case somebody missed it. Go check her out for sure.
And I'm now watching an interview that she did with Bert Kreischer's wife, Leanne Kreischer, who has a podcast called Wife of the Party. And Leanne Morgan is telling her story, and she didn't blow up until 2019.
Jeez.
And so she's been doing comedy for, she said, like 20 or 22 some odd years. And
Wow.
a series of events that I'm only 24 minutes into the interview. But she talks about how she started actually doing like jewelry parties, like that a lot of other moms and women do. And she found that she started developing essentially like bits or like little things in her jewelry parties. And then she got a lot of parties because people thought she was fun with these little shticks, like these little bits and like lines of dialogue that she would do. She got so well known for whatever brand of jewelry, multi-level marketing this was, that they started asking her to do speaking engagements at their big conferences. And that's what she said gave her the confidence to go, maybe I try this stand-up thing because it seems like I'm saying things in a funny way. Maybe it's my accent, whatever, that like, anyway, so she's really just blown up, but I'm with you, Dylan. She's only going to blow up more because other stand-up comics are very critical about the ways that other people come up through comedy. And if they're only funny on TikTok or only funny on YouTube, typically the people who came up the more traditional stand-up comedy performance route are a little skeptical. Like, you can be funny in edited short videos, but are you funny standing up for 15, 30, 45 an hour in front of total strangers, right? Like that's the test for other comics. And even these other comics, Sebastian Maniscalco just had her on his new podcast that he's doing with his pediatrician called Daddy Doctor or Daddy and the Doctor or whatever. And they had her on. So like other big name comics are giving her props. So it's like, they don't even care because she's bringing the funny. And yeah, I think it's going to be harder and harder. I think we may have just missed the boat on getting her on From the Middle, but it was really good. And I actually watched it twice because when I got home from Seattle, I was like, Sherry, you have to watch this one.
Yeah, it's very good. And there's minimal. I think she might cuss a few times. It's really minimal. Pretty much anyone can watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very good. Man, I could like, the easiest way to do this might to just be blitz some of the other things, and you guys can double click if you have questions about some of this. Yeah, double click. Right. Yeah, that's the gesture. Does that feel good? I want to make sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another Netflix documentary, Louis Capaldi, How I'm Feeling Now. It's really interesting, super popular. Basically, COVID shut down everything that he was working on. Spoiler alert. He ends up getting a medical diagnosis. I won't say exactly what it was, but it kind of helps explain some of what he was dealing with on top of COVID. And it's really interesting. Even if you're not a huge Louis Capaldi fan, he just seems like a good kid who's trying to make it in music, and he's just trying to have fun, but dealing with some stuff. So that one was really good. We watched on Star's documentary, Men in Kilts, talked a lot about the show Outlander. Two of the actors from that show get together in like a 7-part miniseries on Stars and are basically just touring Scotland and talking about different parts of Scottish life. So that one is really interesting, especially if you're out into Outlander. Nowhere near as good as like Long Way, Round, Down, or Up from like a buddy documentary series standpoint. But if you happen to have Stars or you really like Scottish English culture, check that one out. Mandalorian season 3, holy crap. What a freaking way to end the series. Incredible episodes. All of season 3 for me was really, really good. I can't wait to see more. Andor and Mando season 4.
Wait, you said end the series. You meant end the season?
End the season. I meant to say end the season.
Oh,
What a way to end the season, not series, season. I'm very excited for more Andor, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka that's coming because we're certainly building with the universe. Super Mario Brothers movie, the highest freaking grossing animated film now of all time. I don't think it was spectacular, but darn it, it was a fun movie to watch. Yeah, double click, go for it.
So I just get excited when I have seen something that you guys are mentioning for the first time, and so I just wanted to say, yeah, I saw it. I saw that one. I saw that movie.
And what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was perfectly fun.
It was fun.
Took the kids. I wanted to take the kids to that movie like 2 weeks earlier, and because I had them for the day, and they were off school, and
Oh yeah, and it wasn't out yet.
yeah, and it wasn't out yet, and so like in their minds and in mine, I had told them we're going to go see this movie, and so made up for that, and I did take them to see the movie, and it was delightful. It absolutely was delightful for me. So even though it was an animated film, which I typically don't do, it was fun. There was throwback moments for people of older generations who have fond memories of some of the earlier Super Mario Brothers games. Plenty of that in there, as you would probably expect. The kids all enjoyed it as well. It was a good experience. I thought it was very funny. So that's all.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
It's my equivalent to other people like casually mentioning that they read a book to people. I mean, it's like, yeah, I saw that movie. Just wanted you to know that I saw it.
That was a great double click. I think for me, it's like no one is calling this like better than any of the Pixar movies, right? This is not like how they ended Toy Story with Toy Story 4 after. It's not that level of like quality of storytelling. It doesn't matter. It's Mario. It's super fun. Like there's plenty of great moments and sound effects and bits of music and gags and jokes and characters. And it's just fun enough that it's, it doesn't have to be the best animated movie ever. It's just a perfectly really fun movie.
Perfectly fun movie. Very entertaining. They're not trying to win awards. They're trying to entertain people.
Yep. And I easily could see there being like a MCU style Nintendo universe coming out of this with movies that sort of link together based on Mario characters. And it's great. Also, I think it's important to note that the song Peaches by Bowser, also by Jack Black, is now on the charts. And I hope it's nominated for Best Original Song for an Academy Award.
That would be, nothing would make me happier.
Jack Black could perform it at the Oscars. So
yes.
There's some of the stuff I've been streaming.
That's awesome. I'm going to fly through mine because I see something on Kendall's list that he watched also that I want to talk about. So we talked about how much we love the studio A24. They keep putting out great content. And one of the most streaming things on Netflix right now is Beef. So if you don't know about Beef, the premise of Beef, it's a American black comedy drama miniseries created by Korean director Lee Sung-jin. It stars Stephen Yoon from The Walking Dead and Ali Wong, two people whose involvement in a road rage incident pits them against each other. The very first episode, she honks at him, flips him off. He chases her down. And for the next, I don't know how many episodes are in the season, they just keep one-upping each other, finding out about each other's personal lives and figuring out ways to get back at each other. And they keep one-upping each other. It keeps getting, the implications, Kendall, keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There are like really bad things that happen, millions of dollars of damage, death, all this stuff happens because of, it all started with somebody almost hitting somebody else in a parking lot. And it is so addicting and good. It's different. I absolutely loved it. And the more I've been watching Tiger Belly and watching stuff by like A24 and learning more about Korean culture and things like that, I've learned that K-drama and Korean films are blowing up in America right now. And I also have learned that according to Koreans, they love revenge stories. Something in their culture makes them really gravitate towards stories of revenge. And I started watching a show that was recommended by, and I'm blanking on the guy's name. He was on Lost. Hold on. He was a guest on Tiger Belly. Daniel Day Kim. He plays Jin on Lost. He was a guest on Tiger Belly. They're talking about the best K-dramas. And Bobby Lee or Kalila says, what's your favorite K-drama right now? And he recommends the show Itaewon Class. And he says it's like the Count of Monte Cristo but a K-drama of The Count of Monte Cristo. So I was like, I'm all in because I loved The Count of Monte Cristo. This like you've got all this time to plan a perfectly thought out revenge plot. And it is that. The episodes are very long. So this is asking you to commit a lot of time, but I've been binging this on travels. The episodes are like an hour and 15 minutes apiece. Itaewon Class, that's Itaewon Class on Netflix right now. The synopsis is essentially a kid in high school. A series of very unfortunate events happens to him because of this rich family. Not just one person in the family does something horrific to him, but then more people in this rich family do things to him. And he goes to jail for 3 years for a series of events. And while he's in jail, he plans how he's going to take like this 10-year, 12-year plan and get back at them. And he plans the whole thing out. And so every episode, you're waiting for them to get their comeuppance. And it's so good. I'm watching it not dubbed. So I'm watching it and listening to it in Korean and reading the English subtitles. Oh, man, I'm here for all of it. It's very good. Highly recommend. And then Sherry and I, less fun, watched the American Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing documentary on Netflix. And I didn't realize some of the crazy stories that happened in 2013 after the Boston Marathon bombing. So that was very well done. A lot of the hero stories that you didn't even realize were a part of how they tracked these guys down from the explosion to 101 hours later, they found these guys, and all the series of events that happened to make that happen was truly fascinating. So I recommend that too. I'm done.
All right. So my list is a lot shorter than your guys' list. So I don't know whether or not to include on my list the fact that I've been teaching my kids now how to ride multiple speed bikes. But I suppose that's on my list. But but when they're asleep, I have some streaming. I'm a jerk. Some streaming time. Designated Survivor. So yeah, nothing new, but I don't, whatever. I have some catching up to do because I had kids.
They basically raised themselves after 2.
That's yeah. No. No, I get it. Designated Survivor. I've been going back. I went back to watch something that I've wanted to watch ever since it came out. And it's great. It's fun. It's actually a little bit smarter than I thought it was going to be. You have to pay attention. Kiefer Sutherland is great. I feel like he's channeling his inner Ronald Reagan every time he gives a speech. Like if I close my eyes, I swear I hear Reagan talking. So I think his method acting is like, I want to speak like Reagan spoke. Anyway, that's my big takeaway from that one. The other one is I took a cue from Corey, who highly recommended, especially since I'd been watching so many docuseries recently, Pez Outlaw. I loved Pez Outlaw. One of my favorites of the docuseries, just because every time you watch an episode and while you're sitting there or it's not even an episode, it's like a doc film, right? Yeah, it's not even. But so you're watching this film and like every once in a while you just like think back to yourself about just the bird's eye view of what's going on here. And you just chuckle at it. Pez Outlaw, this is ridiculous. There's a Pez black market. Who knew? Like, it's not just this guy. I mean, he's sort of like the kingpin, but like, man, there's a community. There is literally a community on this earth for absolutely every interest and every level of every interest. You can find friends who are just as nuts as you are about Pez and will pay thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for one plastic candy dispenser so that they can put it in their basement for a while. But also, while watching Pez Outlaw, what comes to my mind is when I see this guy, and before he was into Pez, he was into collecting cereal boxes, and was suggested to maybe get into Pez, and he looked into it and like the dove right in and bought as much as he could, and then found the back channels on how he could like do better and those kinds of things. And I thought to myself, this is Corey. If Corey got into Pez dispensers, this is Corey. Like, he dove in headstrong. Like, I want to skip from novice to like top of the game professional. Like, I want to be that guy. I don't want to go through the middle stuff. I just want to, what do I need to do to brute force my way to just like being like the legit one, the legit thing.
I so related to Steve Glue, and one of the hidden gems about that documentary, and I know we've now promoted it twice, is that he does all the reenactments himself of the younger version of himself.
Yeah.
In the film. So that was fun. Now his wife and love interest of many years, so sweet, and dealing with some of her own health challenges, but was like, I just think he does this because of his anxiety and OCD, and this is just the way that he copes. And so maybe I have some undiagnosed things going on. But it was so good and so sweet, and just a wholesome, fun little romp. So yeah, check it out.
I mean,
I'm glad you enjoyed it, man.
I mean, it's just so funny. This guy is trying to sneak Pez dispensers past the TSA. Like, it's
good.
It's a fun watch.
It's funny, but what kind of loser pays thousands of dollars for plastic? Gosh,
can you imagine?
just to catalog it and let it sit in boxes in a basement. Gosh.
Well, I'm sure we've given you one or two things to consume this week. Go check out any or all of those fun things. All for the most part, either educational, fun, or wholesome. So go check it out. We hope you enjoy. It's been fun catching up. Go back and listen to episode 200 if you haven't already. Please tell a friend about it. That's a fun one to share with your friends. And we appreciate y'all for listening. If you haven't already, do check out our sponsor's website, artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Fill your cart with a lot of the amazing and locally made with organic and natural product, men's beard grooming products they have on their website. It's truly good stuff. We're not just saying that because they give us a kickback. It's really good stuff. It smells good. It's healthy for your beard. They have other stuff as well. Shampoos and conditioners and body washes and all that, as well as soy blend woodwick candles that I personally love. Good any time of year, not just the fall and winter. Check it out. Fill your cart. Use promo code THEMIDDLE at checkout. That's all one word, THEMIDDLE at checkout, to get 25% off your first order. It helps you. It helps them. You get great stuff. You get great stuff. You get great stuff. They get your purchases. We get a little kickback. It's win, 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 win. It's awesome. So we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we will catch you next week on From the Middle. Auf Wiedersehen.